Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is YouTube. It's our channel. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like.
Also, check out our podcast below in the description.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. We do appreciate you. All right, John. The question is, with Cam Newton now on the Patriots, did this very difficult stretch of the 49ers schedule get even tougher? The stretch that we've talked about a lot. This New England game in the midst of it on October 25th was already going to be difficult. A road game coming off a Sunday night home game against the Rams before going back on the road to play at Seattle the following week. Now, there's still a lot of questions with Cam, like passing physicals, being healthy enough, winning the job, all that. But do we know enough to say the Niners' schedule got more difficult?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that first 3 or 4 game stretch of, they could start off really fast. The New York teams aren't very good. You got a home opener. Miami, still not very good. You get the Eagles at home. And regardless of what you think of the Rams, I think we saw last year the Saturday night game that was at home was difficult. Sean McVay knows Kyle well. I've looked at the New England game, whether Cam Newton was the quarterback, whether Hoyer was the starter, whether, Jarrett Stidham was named the starter. I mean, he was a second-year player, but it'd be like he'd never played. That's a tough game, Guy. I mean, you go to Foxborough. Now, I get we have a lot of unknown, probably won't be fans. I think historically, if you just ask someone on the West Coast, like, what do you think of Foxborough? You'd be like, that's an intimidating place to play, right? Brady. It feels like they're always dark. It's just cold or just weird weather. That game's October 25th. It probably wouldn't be freezing, but you never know in the Northeast. But Belichick, they don't lose games in Foxborough. If we went back 20 years, their record there is fucking good. So, and I get Brady's played a huge role of that, but still, it's not an easy place to play. It'll be there. We're assuming they're going to stay out east, the New York stretch somewhere. It'll be their second time back. It's a difficult, just operation to fly that far for a football game. It just is.
Here's the other thing. You know what New England's doing week 6?
Bye.
Not a damn thing. Nothing.
Yeah. So you'd like his chances off a bye, right? He's a pretty good coach. Last time I checked.
Yeah, no, that's not.
I'm not
new.
saying they can't win this game, but it's just you agree it was going to be challenging regardless of who their quarterback was.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like they were coming off a bye, whether it's Stidham or like there's a few things that work. To me, Cam just means now there is the potential that you just got other stuff to worry about that you didn't think you'd have to worry about if you were playing Jarrett Stidham. Now, Cam still got to be healthy and he's still got to win the job. But you and I both agree, and we did a couple other videos on Cam, if he's healthy, his floor is pretty high. Can he be MVP Cam again? I don't know. But if he's healthy, his floor, we've seen it, is high. He could be a really good player. So that makes your life harder. Period. It does.
I also think, though, to counter, while we viewed this game was going to be challenging no matter what because it's in New England, the Niners were the better team now that Tom Brady's removed. I don't think anyone would say that on paper right now. The element this adds, though, is when we looked at the Niners schedule, we went, well, the Saints, that's a big-time opponent. The Rams is going to be tough. Seattle's obviously always a coin flip game, right? Between Dallas and Philly, we think one of those two teams should be really good. Now, Philly's at home, Dallas on the road, and there's a chance both those two teams are playoff teams. Those are hard. I don't think we viewed New England like we probably consistently had in the past, though we'd all agree that going to Foxborough is tough. There's a chance now, healthy Cam, him and Belichick and Josh mix well. The Patriots are a 10-11 win team. And that, when the season ends, we go, fuck, going to New England against Cam, like they might be one of the better teams in the AFC. There's a chance. I'm not saying that's a lock because there's still a ton of ifs and unknowns, but that is in play now.
I think that, now what I just said was that his floor is really high, but I think what you just said is so true, right? That game goes from, well, it's going to be tough because it's Bill, because they're off a bye, because they're fundamentally sound, because the weather could be difficult, because you got all this other stuff.
It's a 4:25 East kick, means it gets dark at halftime.
Now you add the possibility that their ceiling is higher, right? That they're explosive on offense, that they're really dangerous on offense, that you just have a player. And we've seen it, right? The Niners see it all the time. They see it with Russell. They see it with Kyler. Just a quarterback that you got all these guys chasing him. He is not just going to stay put necessarily and let you have a clean shot at his chest. Like that's not what we're dealing with now. How mobile is Cam? He's had a lot, and he's coming off specifically a foot injury, but still, or he's had a foot injury. He's coming off a shoulder, but it's man, or no, he's coming off the foot. He is coming off the foot, right?
Yeah, he's coming off the foot.
Sorry,
but his Instagram videos, he looks physically moving around well. For whatever that's worth.
Yeah, this is just a quarter. This is a guy you got to potentially chase around a little bit, and it just makes him an X factor.
One thing you saw last year is they teed off on bad O-lines meet immobile quarterbacks. If you had a bad O-line and an immobile quarterback, they annihilated Kirk Cousins, right? Some of the teams throughout the years, those guys were sitting ducks. And Russell Wilson, like you said, and Kyler gave them a lot of trouble. Now, this year is going to be interesting, right? They do play a lot of mobile quarterbacks. I mean, they play obviously Arizona and Seattle. That's 4 games against those 2 guys. But even like Carson Wentz, Josh Allen, I mean, these guys move around. Rodgers is somewhere in the middle. I think he's kind of trending back to not being as mobile as he once was. He's just older. But you see some of the, Dak Prescott. Those are type guys that make Nick Bosa, not just when he's in the pocket, he destroys you. He's got to chase you. And that's the one thing about Drew Brees. When Drew Brees had put up the great game against them, well, the Saints do have a great offensive line. So that's the thing with the Patriots. Their offensive line has always been solid.
Yeah.
And now Cam, he hasn't had a good offensive line the last couple of years. This actually could shift back to, if he is healthy, get 14, 15, just some semblance of that. I think this game, I look at it completely different if you tell me Cam is 31, 32. He's not in the Aaron Rodgers, Eli Manning. Like, even though he feels like he's kind of Roethlisberger, like, no, he's not in that group. He's really was drafted like a year before. He was supposed to be in Andrew Luck's draft. Andrew Luck just went back to school, right?
Well, we were talking about it in a previous video, and you were right. He just turned 31.
Yeah, he's not old. But don't you think sometimes, like, oh, yeah, Rivers, Roethlisberger, Cam? No, he's not in that group. He's really in the Russell Wilson group. Him and Russell are basically the same age. And Luck, like, they were in the group. Like, there are now 3 iterations. There's Brady, Breeze, who are the old version of that Roethlisberger, Rivers, those guys that are still hanging around, and Rodgers probably the younger end of that kind of group. Then there is Cam, Luck, and Russell, who were just blue chippers, sweet, MVP, playoffs, whatever. And then there was kind of like the younger group that has everyone now down to like the Mahomes, Deshaun, and Jimmy, Derek are kind of the high end of that, but just the Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. And I think Cam kind of gets lost in the shuffle. That no, he's not. Like, he easily, if he could just figure it out health-wise, could have 4 or 5 years left at a pretty high level.
Well, if I told you that it wasn't the Patriots that signed him, it was somebody else on the 49ers schedule, Washington signed him, okay? It's hard to find a team. Miami signed him. Wouldn't you say that Miami game or that Washington game just got more difficult if Cam Newton was the quarterback?
Let's say the Giants. I mean, I know they got Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? Like, him anywhere on this schedule would make things more difficult. I just don't know if you could make it any more difficult than you make it when you put him on Bill Belichick's team.
Yeah.
But him anywhere on this schedule
has the best chance to maximize his life. And it kind of felt like, it's weird, it felt like it had almost ended. It's like, where's he going to go? We kept talking about it. And as the summer went on, I think we just kind of out of sight, out of mind. But if you really kind of thought about it, or was it like, are we sure Cam's going to be in the league come training camp? And now it's like, oh, he's going to be starter week 1, New England Patriots, which I still think we need to pump you just see his health. The offense historically has been very, very difficult for newcomers of whoever you are. This is not usually a smooth landing place, right? For offensive players. It can be difficult, right? And we've never seen, the one thing they've always had is Tom. And then I think Gronk really added an element of like being the guy's guy, but could also help guys out. And I think Julian's still there. But there was just Tom. Gronk was his guy. He could kind of help younger guys. There's just a lot of moving parts now. I guess Julian would be the older statesman on the whole squad, right? He would kind of be the team leader, captain, most accomplished guy of the group. But at the end of the day, he is just a slot receiver, right? It's not like he's some all-pro outside guy or a left tackle. He's a slot receiver. But Cam, in theory, should utilize him, right? He's one of the more consistent weapons in the league over his time when healthy. You could argue he might not be the same. The Patriots, I'd say N'Keal Harry is kind of a Cam type guy, right? Big physical, big catching radius in theory. Like that's type players, Funchess, some of the guys he had success with in Carolina. Like that should be a smoother transition. They always try to pair him with guys like that over the years. Didn't always work. Kelvin Benjamin, who turned out to be like 300 pounds, but like that's the type guy with a guy that can be a little inaccurate and spray. Josh Allen to get me a guy with a catching radius, right? Sneaky N'Keal Harry fantasy option this year, bounce back year, buy low.
Their offensive line, they drafted 2 tight ends. They got the center David Andrews is back this year. They were without him.
They franchised the guard Thuney.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just write off. I know he's had a bunch of surgeries. Sony Michel, like he was a really good player, once upon a time in college.
All I know is I've seen the Patriots in short bursts, but I've seen them with young Jimmy Garoppolo. Turns out to be solid. Not Cam's ceiling. I've seen him with Jacoby Brissett. Turns out to be not as solid, but solid. Not Cam's ceiling. I've seen him with other guys. Matt Castle. No Cam Newton. I've seen him with non-Tom Brady's win football games. That's what I've seen. But I've never seen them with a guy with Cam Newton's skills.
You could push back and say it might be more difficult because the one thing they do a good job of is getting guys that only do what they tell them because they can't physically really do anymore. It is going to be a harder balance.
But this is where I
with
go
a
back
quarterback, which is to me what makes it so interesting, right?
Look. Belichick has always done a great job, right? By and large, whoever he gets, they just find a way to make it work. And I think, and I said this in our reaction video immediately afterwards, if you're Josh McDaniels too, this is just such an opportunity to be like, hey, look, I got other stuff I can do. Because we always knew what came after Tom and Bill for them together individually would help put like another potentially really valuable chapter on their legacies, right?
Yeah.
So if Bill gets a healthy Cam, obviously he's got a great shot. For Josh McDaniels, what comes next for him as a head coach? And like you said to me, like for Cam, this is an incredible legacy building opportunity.
I think the Niners benefit a little too, the timing of this game. Like if you told me they played in week 2, I'd be a little nervous. I'd be like, well, they're going to be running plays that the Niners have no clue what's coming.
Seahawks play in week 2, so maybe the Patriots can affect. That game's in Seattle though.
See, that's a good example, though. Like the New England game, I wouldn't want to play these guys early. You don't necessarily know they're going to have some wrinkles for Cam, right?
Yeah, or just their offense. Part of me wonders, what about the opposite? Like, it might just take them a little while to get going.
But this is what we're saying. There's just unknown. You don't know what's coming. Like when you play the Niners week 1, you got a pretty good idea what fucking plays are going to run, right? With New England, their offense, you knew what it was going to look like for 2 decades. Now I got no clue now, none.
Yeah, and that's what keeps defensive coordinators up at night.
Yeah,
it's not
Roberts. Probably not this. Probably on vacation this week, but he'll get on it soon.
Yeah, he's fine. He's on the golf course right now. But come that week,
he'll be on it.
He'll be on it. All right, let us know what you think about this discussion down in the comments below.
Like the video.